We all know that Earth is a watery planet, but what lies beneath the surface remains a mystery to us air-breathing land dwellers. Exploring the depths requires advanced equipment, and despite our efforts, we've only just scratched the surface of understanding. Here are the 20 most unexplained things recently found in the ocean. Number 20. The Cas2. There's nothing like a lost crew and an abandoned ship to get everyone's imagination churning. And here we have a relatively recent tale of just such a mysterious incident. Back in 2007, a boat that went by the name of Cas2 set sail from Australia. At that point in time, the 32-foot catamaran was manned by a crew of 3 sailors. That was, however, seemingly the last time that anyone would see those 3 human beings. When the boat next turned up, it was found drifting 88 miles off of Australia's northeastern coast with its motor still running, computers powered up, and a table that was set for dinner, but there was no sign of the crew anywhere. The vessel would soon be dubbed the Ghost Yacht, and although investigations were thorough, no further evidence ever materialized as to what happened to the crew. This is quite the mystery, and sadly it looks as though it will never likely be solved. But with all the sharks they seem to have in Australia, what do you think really happened here? Was it foul play or perhaps something supernatural? I'm really looking forward to your answers because my pet guinea pig Twinkle needs her nerves to be calmed down. Number 19. The ancient city of Alexandria. Back in the year 2000, divers made an astonishing discovery in the waters of Abu Qir Bay, off the coast of Egypt in the Mediterranean Sea. It would be the lost city of Heracleion, also known as Thonis, which had laid underwater and undisturbed for more than 2,000 years. This legendary lost city had its origins as far back as the 12th century BC, which is an incredibly long time ago in case you didn't know. It's also really old and has a lot of links to other great civilizations of the era, ancient Greece. Archaeologists believe that the city was lost to the sea as a result of a combination of earthquakes and tsunamis, as well as the issue that we share in the modern world. Rising sea levels. The great buildings of the city were likely taken by the waters when it experienced a great flood at around the end of the 2nd century BC, and many structures would have collapsed under the pressure of the water. Huge areas of the city were lost. It's believed that some residents may have actually stayed in the few remaining parts of the city during the Roman era, and by the early days of Arab rule, it continued to disintegrate and was completely taken by the Mediterranean by the end of the 8th century AD. The remains of this once great city are currently located 1.5 miles off the coast, but as we experience our own rising waters, just how far out they'll end up is anybody's guess. Well, it's apparently time to start building that boat. Do you feel a sudden urge to pop on a diving suit and take the plunge? Number 18. Musa Museum. Created in the waters at the Cancun National Marine Park in Mexico, the Musa, or Cancun Underwater Museum, is a collaborative effort by 5 Mexican sculptors and an artist by the name of Jason DeCaires Taylor. The guy is responsible for other submerged galleries elsewhere in the world, and the Musa is apparently all about conserving the nearby coral reefs along the coast of this popular tourist destination. It's designed to offer diverse somewhere else to explore, so this underwater garden features a whole bunch of human figures in various poses and groupings. A total of 500 sculptures are scattered across the seabed these days. It seems that the sea creatures of the area have moved in and added a much more colorful dimension to the stone and concrete shapes, so that's a bit of relief in this otherwise rather gray and weird landscape. Number 17. Narwhal tusks. For the longest time, people really had no idea what narwhal tusks were actually used for. There had long been a debate over the possible uses and functions of these unique features, about which we're still learning. For some years, it's been discussed that the narwhal uses its tusk for the purposes of sexual seduction in a manner that's similar to the way that a deer might use its antlers. You know, all that "look at my big tusk, does it make you horny?" sort of technique. There's also a theory that the tusk is a sensory organ that helps the narwhal detect changes in the water around them, all in order to protect them from predators and fight with other narwhals. Of course, there have been many ideas about how this unicorn-like creature might use its most unique feature, but few have been able to come up with anything really concrete until now, that is. Recently, with the widespread use of drones to take video footage where it was previously difficult to do so, some scientists have managed to capture a group of narwhals using their tusks while feeding. The footage has blown all the theories out of the water, so to speak, and has reinvigorated the quest to solve the mystery of the narwhal's tusk. The plot does thicken, but perhaps as more of these creatures can be observed, more answers will eventually come to the surface. Number 16. Remains of a lost city in Gulf of Cambay. In one of the more controversial archaeological discoveries of the 21st century, the so-called remains of a lost city in the Gulf of Cambay has caused quite a lot of enthusiastic debate amongst historians, and there's still no conclusive evidence of what the site means or indeed if it actually means anything at all. The Gulf of Cambay lies off the western coast of India, and in 2001, marine archaeologists would use sonar scanning technology to investigate the area and then discovered what some people believe to be a lost city submerged at sea. The thing is, though, This city would actually predate any previous historical remains in the subcontinent by more than 5,000 years. So if it were to be proven to be a lost civilization, it would literally change the entire history of mankind. Now, it is significant, but this lost city has been ever so slightly contentious, to say the least. The trouble with the lost city is that the location of the Gulf suggests that much of the evidence that's been discovered there may have washed down rivers which open out into these waters. This makes locating the objects difficult, not to mention the mammoth task of accurately dating them. Archaeologists have pulled up artworks, human remains, sculptures, and wooden furniture, but even the retrieval of the objects has been met with skepticism by some experts. The site has not been properly excavated, and things were collected by dredging the bottom of the sea, so it's not exactly how archaeologists usually like to do things, and thus it's added another layer to the controversy. The mystery just seems to deepen with every new investigation. Now it's time for today's topic. In June 2025, a group of wildlife tourists boarded a whale-watching boat off the rugged coastline of northern Norway, expecting to spot orcas or humpbacks, known to pass through the fjords that time of year. What they captured instead has left scientists scrambling for answers. As the boat drifted near a calm inlet, several passengers noticed strange ripples slicing through the water, too long and too synchronized to be whales. Suddenly, a massive, serpent-like creature surfaced just 30 meters from the boat. Its dark, ridged back rose in multiple sections, revealing at least 3 visible humps. A narrow, finless tail followed, gliding just beneath the surface before the creature disappeared. Shocked tourists scrambled to record the moment, and within hours, the footage had spread online. Marine biologists who reviewed the video confirmed that it does not match the movement patterns or body structure of known whales, seals, or eels. While skeptics suggest it could be an illusion caused by overlapping animals, those on board insist it was a single, coordinated body. Whatever it wasn't a whale. It was something else, and it left behind only questions and a chilling silence on the water. Number 15. Bronze statue of Amphetrite. Here we are again, where you can apparently plunk a statue under the sea and almost immediately turn it into a much more epic and photogenic object than it would be on the boring old dry land. That's likely the case with this mermaid statue. The statue of the mermaid apparently depicts Amphetrite, the wife of Poseidon in Greek mythology. She's a 600-pound bronze sculpture, 50 feet below the surface in the waters off of the beach at Sunset House in Grand Cayman. She's been hanging around down there ever since the year 2000. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a mermaid statue, especially the trashier, kitschy kind that you can plop into an aquarium, but I just don't get this one. Why are we so interested in a sculpture or whatever just because it's found its way to the bottom of the sea? It's not as if it was shipwrecked there, because finding stuff like that is treasure, but things that are deliberately placed on the seafloor? Well, go ahead and tell me that I'm wrong, but what is it all about? Let's get stuck in the comments section below. I know you good people will have some ideas. Number 14. Tangaluma Ship's Graveyard. It all depends on your perspective on things now, doesn't it? This could look like a load of old ship junk cluttering up a beauty spot, or it could be a haven for wildlife if you squint a little bit. That is, between 1963 and 1984, the government of Queensland in Australia did a slightly unusual thing to one of their most attractive landscapes. They deliberately scuttled a lot of broken old boats along their coastline and left them there to rust. The rusty old ship graveyard has been accepted by the wildlife along the coast and seems to offer a sort of home for many of the sea creatures. There are more than 100 species of fish, as well as dolphins, wobbegongs, and dugongs, and also the spots become quite the location for Instagrammers that are looking for a moody silhouette against the sky. And nowadays, that's literally all that matters now, isn't it? Number 13. Christ of the Abyss. From one randomly placed statue to another, this time we have a much more famous one in the waters off the coast of Italy. Christ of the Abyss is a statue of cast bronze by Guido Galletti, which is submerged in the Mediterranean Sea near San Frutuoso, between the Italian Riviera resorts of Camogli and Portofino. It has long attracted tourists and divers, as well as the odd camera crew for seemingly endless documentaries in this most beautiful part of the world. This particular 8-foot-tall Jesus has been standing in 56 feet of water since the summer of 1954. There are 3 other bronze statues from the same casting that are in Grenada and Florida of the United States, and both are positioned underwater with arms outstretched, providing an ethereal figure as the light from above shines down through the surface of the water. Number 12. Elongated skulls in a Mexican sinkhole. Everywhere you turn in Mexico, there seems to be some sort of sinkhole with something sinister hidden inside. Honestly, it's like they've been filling holes with water for all time and chucking dead people in to appease the gods or something. Oh, who would do that? This natural pit, known as a cenote, is the result of a collapsed limestone bedrock that gets exposed to groundwater that's found underneath. There are numerous cenotes just like this one in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, and this particular sinkhole has caused controversy for generations. Local people are said to fear the place and will not even draw water from it or let their children play nearby, and it stands to reason when you hear what else they found there. Many of these creepy old holes were apparently used by the ancient Mayan people as a receptacle for the dead, specifically for sacrificial offerings. Now, if that were not quite creepy enough, the usual skulls and bones and whatnot have been found in this hole were just a bit more weird than any others. The skulls there had an elongated shape which nobody can seem to explain. And you know what that means, right? Aliens. Go on then, let's have your ideas about it in the comments below. Number 11. The Mariana Trench. Now, if you thought that the deep seas were mysterious and unknown, then the Mariana Trench is the deepest and most mysterious that there is. It's a crescent-shaped oceanic trench in the western Pacific Ocean, and is the deepest place in any ocean on the whole of the planet. So that's quite a significantly deep place, then. This deepest of the deep bits of ocean measures to be around 1,580 miles in length and 43 miles wide. At its deepest point, as far as we know, it's 36,037 feet, or 6.82 miles. Now, to put that into some perspective, if Mount Everest were ever plopped into the Mariana Trench, it would be completely below the surface with its peak still just about 1.2 miles beneath the waves. So that is rather deep, then. Now, obviously, it's rather tricky to investigate in such deep waters. The bends is real, and so it's also still one of the more mysterious places on Earth. Plenty of researchers are interested in getting to know the depths of the trench, and there are lots of investigations underway at any time, but given the sheer size of the place, it still conceals many, many secrets that perhaps we may never uncover. Number 10. New Jersey Locomotive Graveyard. A spooky sight of two lost locomotives in the water about 5 miles off the coast of New Jersey has given local historians a new mystery to ponder. Just how this patch of sea became the final resting place for a couple of trains from the 1850s is quite the head-scratcher. There are a couple of theories. Either the two steam trains were being transported when they accidentally ditched into the sea, or they were deliberately pushed into the water, perhaps to prevent the vessel transporting them from sinking or capsizing. There was certainly never any railway all the way out at sea. Now was there? The locomotives are well preserved as they sit 90 feet below the surface. They have sustained a lot of rust, which you would expect after 160 years sitting deep underwater, but their forms remain, and they're still of interest as examples of steam engines of the era. Oddly enough, they're both alongside one another on the seabed, sat upright as if pulled into the station together. Number 9. Lake Michigan Stonehenge. Well, now this is exciting, isn't it? Not to mention really rather weird indeed, and whether it can be explained or not, well, that remains to be seen. Archaeologists were busy scanning the vast underneath of the waters of Lake Michigan, looking for shipwrecks, but they came across something distinctly unusual and much, much older, it would seem. While using remote sensing techniques in the Grand Traverse Bay area of Lake Michigan at about 40 feet below the surface, they would discover a big boulder with a prehistoric carving that appears to depict a mastodon, which is generally a woolly mammoth. And then nearby to that, an exciting discovery was found. A series of stones that had seemingly been arranged in a kind of Stonehenge style. This bunch of old prehistoric rocks was nestled in amongst the regular old detritus of the lake, like old cars and wrecks in a randomly Civil War era pier, but hiding in this wreckage was an archaeological gem. Well, apparently, anyways, tell me if I'm wrong, and yes, I know it's underwater, but this is lacking some of Stonehenge's enormity and imposing swagger, right? I mean, how big is it, even? I expect a little more from my prehistoric monolith. Number 8. RMS Republic. The RMS Republic was a fancy liner that was owned by the White Star Line and was considered by many to be the forerunner to the Titanic, and we all know how well that worked out now, don't we? Anyways, this ship was also to suffer a sinking feeling when, in 1909, before the Titanic had even been built, she was rammed by another vessel and then plunged into the bottom of the sea about 50 miles south of Nantucket Island in Massachusetts. Most of the ship's passengers and crew were rescued due to the then new radio technology that they used to call for help. Discovered in 1981 by Martin Bayerl, the RMS Republic eventually became this man's obsession after an initial interest in the history of the ship. While there was less thirst for recovering the stuff that had sunk to its doom, there was still a tiny semblance of letting things lie, being respectful and such like. By the time 1987 had come around, all those kinds of pretenses were dispensed with, and the rumor of $1.6 billion worth of gold was simply too tantalizing of a prospect. The treasure hunters would don their diving gear, and by then, old Martin had invested so much money and time into the project that there was no going back. He would then spend the following 30 years returning to the wreckage site, sending crews and submarines down 185 feet beneath the waves, hoping year after year that this time he would find the gold. But the elusive gold still remains unfound to this day. Number 7. Apollo Moon Rocket Engines. Amazon CEO, Gollum impersonator, and total creepster Jeff Bezos is obsessed with space. His obsession has now branched out into space travel, and plans to colonize the moon or some such evil Bond villain-style scheme are on the take. But prior to the latest space tourism jaunts, his interest in the space program meant that he was like any other nerd out there, he just had a bigger budget. So when Bezos decided that he wanted to find the lost Apollo rockets from the 1960s and 70s, he set up a privately funded project to search the globe for their whereabouts. The rockets that were used as the boosters for the first stages of an Apollo rocket launch were designed to power up and then fall away from the rocket. The boosters would then tumble back down to Earth, and the Apollo craft would continue skyward. Many Apollo rockets were launched in their heyday of space travel back in the late 60s and early 70s, and many of those engines did their duty and then plopped into the ocean, never to be seen again. They were believed to be lost forever, that is, until Bezos brought his big bucks and recovery project on board. Nobody is exactly sure why he wanted to retrieve the items, but some speculate that it's simply that he could. So he did. Whatever the motivation, it turns out that money does indeed get the wheels greased, and the engines were found and recovered in the year 2012. Following a 2-year-long renovation period, the pieces are now on display at Seattle's Museum of Flight. Number 6. The Bloop. Sometimes the world of science fiction seems to bleed into our reality, and stuff happens that could give anyone with a lively imagination a proper case of the Wiggins. This bloop business is one such thing, and it may sound like a silly cartoon noise, but it's actually much more spooky and mysterious than any of that. Back in 1997, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA for short, detected a high-amplitude, ultra-low frequency sound under the sea. It was so powerful of a sound, in fact, that it could be heard at a range of over 3,000 miles. At the time, the source of the sound was a complete mystery to the good people at NOAA, so they would simply name it the Bloop, and it began a decades-long investigation of the unexplained noise. Early on in their theorizing, they thought that the sound might have actually been made by some sort of marine animal, although frankly, a sound that was that loud would had to have originated in a creature the size of an island, so that was a little bit alarming, to say the least. Then this fun idea would be replaced with the much more boring one that they stick with today. The bloop was the result of glacial movements or a big iceberg crashing somewhere far away. What do you like to imagine that this mystery sound was all about? Have you got any fun conspiracy theories to sling into the mix? Do let me know in the comments down below. Number 5. The Antither Mechanism. Well, this one's interesting. Who knew that they had computers in ancient times? Well, that's what archaeologists are calling this unusual object that they've discovered beneath the surface. A trading ship sank off the coast of the island of Antithyra in the Mediterranean Sea during the first half of the 1st century BC, and the wreck has proven to be a site of such enormous archaeological significance that it's revealed its secrets over the years. One such revelation was that of a mechanism that belies all previous understanding of how advanced the use of geared mechanisms actually was during the time. Until the discovery of the Antither Mechanism, there had been no such discovery of any engineering marvels that involved gears. In fact, it was not believed to have been in use until medieval cathedral clocks were built over 1,000 years later. The mechanical device is believed to have been used for calculating and displaying information about astronomical phenomena back in ancient Greece. This was obviously cutting-edge technology and is actually surprisingly sophisticated. It's been scanned, and the resulting radiographic imagery shows there are 30 gear wheels that form part of the internal mechanism of the machine. So this may be difficult to explain in some respects, but only because historians had not yet discovered the true extent of the knowledge and skills of ancient people. It may add as much mystery to the matter as it explains. Number 4. The Sulfra Crack. This phenomenon is located in a national park in Iceland. Sulfra is part of the massive dividing line between the two continents of Europe and America, and it's also known as the Atlantic Rift, which is a gigantic crack in the Earth's surface at the point where two continental plates meet. Now, don't be alarmed, but the crack does keep getting bigger. It widens every year by about an inch. The water in Sulfra is some of the clearest in the world, with visibility often exceeding 100 meters, thanks to the natural filtration process of the surrounding lava rocks. This makes it a dream destination for divers and snorkelers, offering an unparalleled underwater experience. The water temperature is icy cold, ranging between 35 and 39 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, but divers wear dry suits to stay warm while exploring. Sulfra is divided into 4 main sections: the Big Crack, Sulfra Hall, Sulfra Cathedral, and Sulfra Lagoon, each offering unique underwater landscapes. The Big Crack is the narrowest part, where divers can literally touch both tectonic plates, while Sulfra Cathedral is a vast, open space with breathtaking views. The meltwater that fills Sulfra takes decades to filter through the lava fields, resulting in its pristine clarity and purity. Many divers describe the experience as surreal, almost like floating in space, due to the crystal-clear water and dramatic rock formations. Sulfra is not just a geological wonder but also a protected site, with strict regulations in place to preserve its fragile ecosystem. Most of the movement is unseen, and it happens way below the Atlantic Ocean, but there is a piece of the crack at Sulfra that allows the rift to be seen beneath the clear meltwater from the Icelandic glaciers. It is a truly extraordinary sight, and as such is popular for diving. It's actually possible for divers and snorkelers to swim between the tectonic plates, and in some places you can even reach out and touch both continents at the same time. How cool is that? This one is definitely going on my to-do list. Number 3. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. Oh, something circular and mysterious. It must be aliens. Always with the aliens and the circular oddities. I mean, really though, why is it that when anything circular or indeed symmetrical turns up unexpectedly that we all instantly assume that it's aliens? Why would aliens even be so into round things anyways? That's at least as big a mystery as anything else we've been wondering so far. The so-called Baltic Sea Anomaly, there's a catchy name if I've ever heard one, is a geographical feature that's only actually visible on some fairly indistinct sonar images that were taken by a Swedish diving team back in 2011. They were out there in the northern Baltic Sea doing some sea treasure hunting when they would review images and concluded that what they had seen down there was an unusual object that they thought might have a non-natural origin. The tabloids, never shy of a potential aliens headline, had a large field day with intense speculation about it being a sunken UFO, but of course there's no way that it might be what scientists have said, just a boring old geological formation or, well, a big round rock. What do you think's going on here? Could this be a clue to extraterrestrial life, or is it something much more pedestrian? Go on and get stuck in the comments below. Me and the aliens dare you. Number 2. The Mary Celeste. One of the most enduring mysteries that remains unsolved is that of the Mary Celeste. This ship would set sail from New York City on December 5th of 1872. Just 10 days later, though, it would be discovered without any signs of life on board. Nobody who was on board on that fateful voyage would ever be heard from again. So what is it that exactly happened? Well, that's the thing nobody knows. When the vessel would be recovered, the crew's belongings were still intact and in their quarters. The ship's cargo, which consisted of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was mostly untouched, though 9 barrels were found to be empty. Some theorized that fumes from the alcohol may have caused an explosion or fire, prompting the crew to abandon ship in a panic. However, there were no burn marks or signs of fire damage anywhere on the vessel. Others suggest that a sudden storm or rogue wave could have flooded the ship, leading the crew to believe it was sinking. Pirates have also been considered as a possible explanation, but the lack of looting makes this theory less likely. Another idea is that the crew may have fallen victim to food poisoning or illness, causing mass hysteria or disorientation. The ship's condition, with its sails still set and provisions untouched, only deepens the mystery. The missing lifeboat suggests the crew may have attempted to escape, but no trace of them or the lifeboat was ever found. Over the years, the Mary Celeste has become a symbol of maritime mystery, inspiring countless books, films, and theories. The only lifeboat was missing, and one of the ship's 2 pumps had been taken apart. There was 3.5 feet of water in the bottom of the ship, and all of the ship's charts had been liberally scattered about, but there was not a single soul in sight or any evidence of the fate that may have befallen them. Number 1. Underwater crop circles. Well, UFO botherers around the world are particularly fond of placing crop circles in the category of alien creations, and good for them. But what if those crop circles, or things that look a bit like them anyway, are actually occurring underneath the sea? Well, it does look extremely spooky, and given the fact that we know virtually nothing about what's actually going on in most of the world's oceans, it's no small wonder that some people looked at these patterns and figured that it was aliens. Well, I'm sorry to poop on that party, but these patterns are actually the product of puffer fish. Try saying that without your teeth in. These underwater patterns were discovered by a photographer who was completely mystified by the shapes, which he would dub mystery circles. Despite having spent 50 years exploring the depths of the ocean, he had never seen anything like this before, so that's when he decided to do some further investigation, and this time with a proper camera crew. And what they discovered was completely amazing. These circular patterns were not, sorry about this for all you believers, the work of aliens, but rather the result of tireless toil of one very small fish. The small Japanese puffer fish had apparently been spending his days making circular ridge shapes all over the ocean floor by using only his flapping fin. This was no work of accidental art, though. The little fish would deliberately gather shells, bring them to the pattern, and then break them, scattering the fragments along the inner circle ridge. These artworks were created with the usual intentions of most male creatures, all in order to attract the ladies and entice them to mate with them and lay their eggs in the center. The circle shape was to draw the attention of the female fish. Apparently, the more intricate the pattern, the more popular the male fish prove to be with the ladies. So there you go. It just takes a little bit of circular action to get the ladies going. Which of these underwater mysteries sparked your imagination the most? Would you want to investigate them further? Share your amazing thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to check out the other awesome content popping up on the screen. I'll see you next time.